Hi everyone, welcome to Cigars with M. Today we are live at PCA 2024. We have the wonderful privilege of having a wonderful interview with Mike Stous of Boveda. He is the OEM representative for manufacturers. Mike, thank
Mechelle,
you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I'm just so glad to be here with you. You are one of my favorite people
You're
in the
too
industry, and I'm just so glad to stay here with you. How are you doing?
I am overwhelmed, but awesome and all at the same time.
Yeah? Well, you look great.
Thank you. I appreciate it, as do you.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, we've been on a whirlwind.
Yes.
So you and I officially met last year at PCA.
Yes.
And then we had the opportunity to spend time together in Colorado a month
Correct.
later. And then, of course, we had the festivals.
Yes, Pro Cigar. Let me tell you, if you have not been to Pro Cigar, you need to definitely go. It was a time. And we have plenty of content
We do.
to say that actually what happened.
And some of it we don't have content for, and that's all right as well.
That's definitely true. Actually, yeah, it is. But it's such a pleasure to have you. I wanted to get with you because your position in the company is so unique.
It is.
The fact that you work with manufacturers and that's your job, that you actually go to the different manufacturers in all the different countries, Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, you're in U.S., everywhere. Like you're that guy. So I wanted to just connect with you so that people can get an idea of what it is that you do from the manufacturer standpoint with Boveda, and really kind of dig deeper into that.
Right. And thank you for that, and thank you for this opportunity to talk to your audience. So my role is unique. It's one of those things. I've been in the industry since 2011. I've been with Boveda since June of 22.
Right.
And I was actually working at a retail shop.
Yeah, you were a COO, right?
I was. La Cultura Cigars in Kansas City.
Yes.
And it was one of those things where I absolutely love that shop. I still work out of that shop 1 or 2 days a week. Mm-hmm. But an opportunity presented itself to go work with Boveda.
Yeah.
One of my former coworkers from Zycar offices out of that shop.
Wow.
He was our supply chain director for Boveda.
That's great.
And he had reached out and said, Boveda's actually, they've done it for a number of years, starting with Carlito Fuente in the Fuente boxes, the Opus X specifically. And they've built up this portfolio of cigar manufacturers, but they never really gave it a focused interest to have somebody just going after that, and humidor manufacturers as well.
Which is so important.
It is. It is. It's the basis of our business. And the wall that we've got over here, these are some of my customers and friends that I get to work with.
I see some of my own friends up here.
So it's a really cool position. So basically what ends up happening is when you buy a box of cigars and you see a little sticker on it that says packaged with Boveda, and you've got a Boveda inside of it, the idea behind it is Carlito Fuente always wanted his Opus X to taste the same at Chateau de Fuente as it did anywhere else in the world.
Right.
And he wasn't able really to make that happen without something keeping that humidification perfect that we experienced in the DR a few weeks ago.
Right.
And he famously said, if it just puts off humidity, I want nothing to do with it. Because sometimes cigars coming out of the DR are a little bit, humidity is a little bit much.
Right, and you also experience it just with your skin, your nails, your hair,
yeah,
everything.
Absolutely.
I know, honestly, when I came back from the Dominican Republic, my skin was a little dry, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this has never happened to me. Like, it's definitely different. So I can imagine what it is like with cigars.
Yeah, and it's one of, and I actually used that quite a bit because I was in Nicaragua for Puro Sabor in January. Mm-hmm. Got home, and 2 days later we came out to TPE here in Vegas. So we went from being in this humid climate, beautiful humid climate, perfect for cigars, to Vegas. Even in February, my lips were chapped, my skin was dry, but there was only that 2 day. So I would actually tell people, I was like, hey, what do you think's happening to your cigars?
Yeah.
And so to get back to it, my whole role is to make sure that when you get a box of cigars and you see that tab on there, they're ready to go. Mm-hmm. You don't have to let them sit in your humidor for a couple weeks. You don't have to worry about, what kind of quality are these going to be, as long as they're good quality cigars.
Right.
But they're going to be ready to smoke.
Right, agreed. And so what do you recommend to manufacturers, like when you are talking to them about Boveda and how that is going to benefit them? What do you recommend as the temperature of their Boveda pouch? Do you recommend 69? Do you recommend 72? What do you recommend?
That's a great question, and it's something I asked quite a bit when I first started. Because Boveda, we've got some specific sizes that we use for cigar boxes. So if you open up a cigar box and you see a Boveda in it, you're not going to see that same size Boveda on the store shelf.
Right.
And those are specifically and exclusively 69%. Mm-hmm. And the thought behind that is the window for cigars is 65 to 75%. So having that 69 just puts us right there in the middle.
I love them.
Yeah, and it's that way it's not too humid with the 72, which the 72% are really made for humidors that have a lot of wood, maybe not seal up all the best, maybe have that glass top, that sort of thing. So it really doesn't work in a cigar environment when that box is completely sealed up.
That's
that
so
69% is really where it needs to be.
It makes a difference.
It does.
And I will say too, I know that you primarily work with manufacturers, but even for consumers, when I am doing episodes, I always recommend to people like 69. Anytime I'm doing an episode and I'm talking about a humidor or talking about humidification as a whole, I always have Boveda because you're the leading and the best. And so, the 69 it's just in that sweet spot.
Sure.
Always is a sweet spot for me.
And I always start out, when I, provide, whether it be somebody from the media or reps or that sort of thing, I always start out and say, hey, this is usually where we start out at 69. But at the end of the day, whether it's how you cut a cigar, like you punched that LFD versus giving it a guillotine cut, or you got a V cut, or how you hold the cigar, how long you're smoking the cigar, what percentage of humidity you use. It's all personal preference.
It is indeed. But as long as you're using Boveda, you should be
set.
good.
You're set. So yeah, I want to make that point that, just because, I say, 69% for the cigars going in the box, at the end of the day, whatever you're using in your humidor, up to you.
Right.
Totally up to you.
Agreed. So I will say, as you move in your role, what is your favorite part of your position? What is the part that you just, it gets you going, it keeps you in the space of, I'm doing this as my purpose.
Right.
What is that?
Visiting cigar factories.
Yes.
Hands down.
So which one is, I wouldn't say your favorite, but which country do you enjoy going to the most?
Yes.
DR?
Yeah, that's great. Nick is great too. And I try to be very Switzerland with my answers.
Yes,
I guess
absolutely.
the best way to put it.
Which is why I said country and not company.
Well, thank you for that. Because we would have definitely got a little bit more in the weeds there.
Right. We love everybody.
No, yeah, and it's one of those things. I went to Nicaragua twice before I went to the DR, and absolutely fell in love with Nicaragua. The people there, just the energy that's going on. You look at that town of Esteli, and you realize how much of an impact cigars have on it.
And it's grown so much.
It really has.
Even in the last 5 years, just the amount of cigars that is pushed out of Nicaragua it's amazing because it's had not always been that way.
No, definitely not. And me personally, I have always kind of leaned towards Nicaraguan cigars. Getting in this role and visiting, factories in the DR, and just being in the DR for 9 days a few weeks ago really opened me up to DR cigars a lot more. Always enjoyed them.
Yeah.
It just wasn't what I naturally gravitated towards.
Right.
And so it's really, and I guess to really go back to your original question, that's part of what really motivates me and keeps my passion alive, is just discovering new things I may have had a preconceived notion about that wasn't necessarily the right one.
Okay.
Being able to go back to it and say, okay, well, I was wrong about that.
Yeah.
And I would rather be able to come back and say, I was wrong about that than to continue to live the rest of my life in a lie just because I said it once this one way. So I've enjoyed it all. And I feel very blessed to be in the position that I am to really get to know, these people on the wall.
Right.
When I first got into smoking cigars, I was too nervous to open up a door to a cigar shop because I didn't know what was going to be on the other side.
Really? It's that unknown fear.
It is.
Yes.
And I wish I would have got into it sooner. But I go from that to now, calling some of the people that are on this wall to say, hey, I'm going to be in your country. Can I come by your factory?
Right. But it's also, too, I will say, previous to working with Boveda, as you mentioned, you were COO of a cigar lounge, but you also work with Cigars.
I did.
So you had an opportunity to really kind of see how the industry was from a cigar accessory standpoint, primarily focused, right? And then moving over to more of a product base that is kind of leading in its own form, but really providing such a service that it's almost like you absolutely have to use me. You have no choice. Well, you have a choice, but we don't count that choice.
Right. Yeah. And people ask me, what's your biggest competition? And I really tell people it's the old school way of thinking.
Yes.
That hey, we can do some sort of black magic on the backside that's going to keep the humidity just fine for the cigars without using a Boveda. But at the end of the day, how reliable is that?
Right.
What's the science behind that versus what we're doing with our stuff? And, we've got a whole team here of a dozen people.
Amazing team. The Boveda team, I love y'all. Y'all are always
you.
been like family. Like literally since I've met all of you, each person I feel like I have a special relationship with.
Sure.
Which is amazing. And, when you meet great people and then you have great products and then you're able to back it. Like for me, I always say, if I like you and I rock with you, I'm going to promote you. And all like super authentically, not in a situation of, oh, you're paying me to say this or whatever the case may be. Like I genuinely use Boveda. I shared the story with you earlier.
Yeah, about your father.
About my dad. Like I literally call him every 3 months and we rotate our cigars together and switch our Bovedas. And I call him
via FaceTime, because you guys are not close.
Yes,
or in close, but I mean geographically you're not close.
He lives in Florida, and so I will FaceTime him to make sure that he is writing the date on the Boveda and swapping it out. And I'll call him, and just check, hey, how's your Boveda doing?
Right.
Even if it's, that particular season where it gets a little drier, you may need to switch it a little bit before. But I mean, it's the idea of understanding that you need to make sure your cigars are cared for.
Yes.
There's no, you cannot be in a place where you're just having your cigars just laying there and there's no humidification. Right. It just cannot happen.
Yeah, which leads me to the second part of my job, which is working with humidor manufacturers.
Yes.
Which, in some respects, it's an amazing experience. Mm-hmm. It's not going and seeing factories, which I enjoy so much, but it's somebody who's buying their first humidor or even subsequent humidors. Mm-hmm. For them to have a humidor starter kit with that humidor when they buy it.
Yes, I love that starter kit.
Yeah, which is part of, another initiative that I'm doing is just to make sure that when somebody buys a humidor, they're already set on the right path. They're not getting this outdated technology of distilled water and green foam.
Mm-hmm. And the directions are clear on the bag. I literally did an episode on it, and I was sharing with my followers about how easy it is actually to season a humidor.
Yeah.
And a lot of them reached out and were like, oh my gosh, where can I get this? And I put the link right there.
There you go.
It is super easy. I mean, the steps are on the back. Everything is in the bag for you. There's absolutely no reason why you can't do this.
Yes. Yeah, and then we offer so many, and then you've got the the QR codes on there.
Yes.
Which goes directly to Boveda's website, mm-hmm. where you can set up and go ahead and get auto ship as well. So that way, how often you're going to need to switch out your Bovedas. Mm-hmm. You know what the best product is for your cigars.
Agree.
This makes it easy, so you don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
It's just coming to you whenever you...
Yes, absolutely. But I will say, can you let us know exactly what is inside of the Boveda pouch?
Sure, absolutely.
Can you break that down for us?
I can. In fact, our R&D gentleman just sitting right here off camera, he could probably do a better job, but thankfully it's simple enough that it is a combination of salts, mm-hmm. Purified reverse osmosis water, and then just a food-grade thickener. The Bovedas, when they're actually made, they're a gravity feed. Mm-hmm. So that thickener allows the salt and the water to keep that same ratio all the way through, so it's not just settling at the bottom of the vat when they're being created.
Wow.
And that's it. That's all it's in it. And the natural properties of that salt and water absorbs the humidification and puts off the humidification. Mm-hmm. So you're not having to worry about, the distilled water. Water's always trying to get to 100%. And that's not good for cigars.
Yes.
So it's an amazingly simple product, mm-hmm. that's all of the ingredients, but then there's a proprietary resin in there as well, mm-hmm. that only allows purified water vapor to either come in or out of the cigars.
Yeah.
So you're not getting any salt products, you're not getting any salt flavor, anything like that. It's literally just purified water.
Yeah. And
I can't believe such a product exists, that I'm a part of that team,
right.
that it allows me to do what I'm doing, to meet wonderful people like you, and
thank you.
It's really a blessing.
Yes. And I mean, I think what is really great about it is that it's a one and done.
Yeah.
So even if you have an acrylic humidor, you can easily slip a Boveda in there, put your cigars in there, and you're good.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's there.
Right. And for those of us that have been around smoking cigars for a while, remember the days of it's summertime, it's humid. I'm going to let my humidor stay open for a little bit just because it's way too humid inside of it.
Right. It's different now.
It just takes away all of it.
It's about the technology.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm an old guy just saying, I had to walk to school uphill both ways
when
I talk about those old days.
You're not an old guy.
Yeah,
not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
I appreciate that.
But I really do appreciate your time, and I just appreciate you for what you do for the industry.
Thank you,
to
Mechelle.
make sure that our cigars are protected by Boveda.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Boveda for having us, and thank you, Mike.
Yes, and
for being
shout
a
out
guest.
to Matt Adams, our videographer that's allowing us to steal this, and he's going to be getting us some video. Really appreciate you, Matt.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.